Hello and welcome back to Scotty Does Stuff. Today I'm going to make a real quick video to show a fellow that I met on Facebook in the First Gen Camaro group how to find the locating hole for a stock spring. That locating hole is on the frame. It can be kind of a thing that can help you figure out if you've got the spring twisted into the right spot. If you can see it, you've done it right. If you can't see it, you've done it wrong. So that's all there is to it. We'll go ahead and just a quick show and tell here. This is make sure I can see that. Make sure you can see that. So this is a factory style upper control arm, and the frame rail kind of runs underneath here, and you're going to have a couple things sticking out here, and you're going to see there's a small locating hole you'll see in the next little part of the video here. Let me bring you around to this side of the car and show you. Alright, so this is on the passenger side of the Camaro. I'm going to try to show you a couple things here just to orient yourself to where you can find this later on. So here's your brake rotor, brake caliper. This is your upper control arm. Here's your lower control arm. Here's your spring with the shock inside, and this is the sway bar. Now this is on my 68 Camaro, that's all the factory setup. This is a Hotchkiss 2-inch lowering spring, that's why it's not black. It's a shorter spring overall, but has a higher spring rate, so it sits about like that even when it's under load. It's crazy strong spring. Getting into what I'm trying to show you here, we're looking for the locating hole so that when we put this spring in, that it goes up and sits in the correct orientation. And the reason that you need that correct orientation is because you need it seats in the top of the frame here in like a cup, and if it's wrong in that cup, it's not going to be seated correctly, and it's going to bounce around. You're going to experience some improper movement, especially when you go to put it in, and it could pop out, could injure somebody, could injure you, could damage your rig. So you want to make sure these things are correctly installed. And on that note, just a disclaimer: if you don't know what you're doing installing a spring, don't try it at home. Get some help from somebody, because it's the kind of thing that if it goes bad, it can cause severe injury when you're pressing it into place. For what I did, I used a spring compressor on it that kind of hung this way and one off the back too, and then I also had a ratchet strap going from here into the frame over there that held it so that there was no chance of it popping out of there and killing me, or damaging my garage or causing damage to the vehicle. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're not sure about doing all those steps, outsource it. It doesn't cost much to have new springs installed, and quite frankly, it can be a literal lifesaver. Just don't get yourselves hurt trying to do maintenance. All right, so just again for orientation, we're on the upper control arm here. Here's your upper ball joint. This little nub is for a bump stop that sits kind of underneath here and keeps the upper control arm from bashing into the frame. And this is your top bolt for the shock. This is the top of the shock, and the shock mount, and then the shock bushing or rubber piece, I don't know what you call it. So you see down in there that white circle, I have taken a bit of white paint. Try to get that a little more stable for you. I've taken a bit of white paint there and I've applied it to the hole around the outside edge just to make it visible on the video. And I know this isn't going to be the easiest to see because I'm trying to, it's pretty tight in there. But at this point in your installation, you're not going to have, you're going to be kind of working with the spring to get it in place. And you want to work it so that the spring is visible in there. And you can see that's the end of that cup I was telling you about. The end of the spring kind of rotates into this cup, and you'll see it passing through that little hole. And again, I know it's not really easy to see down in the hole, but the top of my spring is in there, pushed as close up against that edge as I could get it. So my little tip on how to do that from a sitting under the car sideways, uncomfortable position while you're installing it if you're doing it at home. And again, if you don't know how to do this and you're not comfortable with it, outsource it. It's not that expensive. This was not my first rodeo, so I did it myself. So let me show you a little tip that I did. All right, you see up in here I got a piece of black tape. That piece of black tape sits roughly 180 degrees out from where the end of the spring sits. So that when I was rotating the top of the spring into place, I had this visible on the outside of the car where I was sitting over this way, and I was able to say, okay, this is the opposite side of the top of the spring, the little end nub, and so then I was able to use this to locate it in. So that's about all there is to it. Just find that little hole located underneath the upper control arm on the frame. And if you can't find it, it might just be dirty. You might have to just knock some of the dirt out of it while you're cleaning up your area, getting ready to put the new springs in. And that's not too hard to do. You can just flip that control arm up out of the way and clean the hole out while you got the spring out. So not a big deal. But again, be careful. There's a ton of energy in those springs, and if you do it wrong, you could end up losing a limb. Could hurt you, could hurt one of your buddies. Just, again, if you're not comfortable with it, lots of videos on how to do it right, but I would say definitely outsource that so you don't get yourself banged up. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe and all that stuff if you want, or just enjoy the video and have a real fine day.